Introduction. AI is not an IT project. It is a leadership test. If the CEO does not own how the business operates in the age of AI, the CEO is outsourcing the future of the company. Not to a villain, to drift. That is what this book is about. AI is everywhere right now. It is in every board conversation, every vendor pitch, every product roadmap, every leadership offsite, and every nervous hallway conversation about what work is going to look like next. Companies are buying tools, launching pilots, forming committees, collecting use cases, and telling employees to get fluent. And yet, inside most companies, the business still runs the same way. The same meetings happen. The same handoffs slow things down. The same people rebuild the same context every week. The same managers ask for the same updates. The same departments argue over whose data is right. The same employees copy, paste, chase, summarize, reconcile, and translate between systems that should have been connected years ago. That is the problem. Not that companies are ignoring AI. That many are mistaking AI activity for AI strategy. The companies that win will not be the companies with the most AI. They will be the companies that use AI to change how work gets done. That is the strategy worth owning. Why I wrote this book. I did not write this from the sidelines. I wrote it from inside the work. For the past 3 years, I have been deep in AI strategy, experimentation, implementation, and operating model change inside a real company with more than 1,000 employees that helps generate more than $5 billion in revenue for its clients. This has not been theoretical. It has been hands-on, messy, political, practical, technical, human, and very real. I have lived the questions this book answers. Who should own AI strategy? How do you decide which workflows matter? How do you move from pilots to production? How do you measure value without lying to yourself? I have also had the chance to work with and learn from some of the biggest AI innovators in the world, including Amazon, Google, OpenAI, IBM, and others. That exposure matters, but it is not the reason to trust this book. The reason to trust it is that the ideas here come from real operating pressure, real teams, real workflows, real governance problems, real adoption issues, and real attempts to install AI as an operating system inside the business. That phrase matters. AI as an operating system. Not AI as a chatbot. Not AI as a feature. Not AI as a prompt contest. Not AI as a board slide. AI as a new operating layer for how the company sees itself, understands context, supports decisions, reduces glue work, and changes the way work moves. That is the shift this book is trying to help you see. This is not AI theory. This is operating experience. And the lesson is simple. AI does not transform a company unless the company changes how it runs. How this book is organized. This book is built around 4 parts and 9 chapters. Part 1 names the 2 mistakes that cripple most AI strategies. Part 2 defines the ownership model that fixes them. Part 3 shows how to design and build the operating model. Part 4 covers execution, culture, measurement, and the limits of the argument itself. Read it in order. The argument builds. Each chapter solves one layer of the same problem, and the chapter that follows assumes you understood the one before it. A note about the audio version. This material was written to be felt, not just studied. The tone matters, the urgency matters, the bluntness matters. Some of these lines are meant to hit like something you would say in a leadership meeting when everyone knows the truth, but nobody has said it yet. AI everywhere, strategy nowhere. Prompts are not profits. Pilots are not strategy. Train me or don't KPI me. Humans are not AP is. Those lines are memorable because they are true. They come from the lived reality of watching companies get excited about AI while still running on broken handoffs, outdated meetings, unclear ownership, and human glue. Listen to the audio, mark it up, argue with it, bring it to your leadership team. Use it to stop doing things that only look like progress. Use it to build something better. Because this moment is not just about adopting a new technology, it is about deciding what kind of company you want to become. The future will not reward the companies that simply use more AI. It will reward the companies that learn how to run better because of AI. That is why this book exists. There is also something I want to be transparent about. The voice you hear in the audio version is mine, my actual voice. But I did not sit in a recording studio and read this book out loud, word for word. I uploaded a sample of my voice to 11 Labs, an AI voice platform. and had the technology narrate the manuscript using a model trained to sound like me. You may notice an inflection that feels slightly off in a complex sentence, or a pause that a human reader might have placed differently. That is the technology, not a mistake in the text. I want you to know that because it is the whole point. I wrote a book about using AI to create operating leverage, and I used AI to produce the audio version of it. Not because I could not read it myself, but because the time required to record, edit, review, and master a full audiobook did not justify the cost when a tool existed that could do it well, in my own voice, in a fraction of the time. That is not a shortcut. That is the argument. AI should not replace the work that deserves your best judgment and time. It should handle the work that does not. Deciding where that line sits and having the discipline to act on it is exactly what this book is about. As we dive in, I want to give one quick shout out to GleekOps for helping distribute my books. GleekOps installs AI operating systems inside businesses, but what makes them different is that they are all owner-operators with extensive experience leading AI transformation. If you agree with anything in this book or want to explore how and where you should start a transformation initiative in your own organization, visit gleekops.com. That's GLEEKOPS.com. Let's go. Part 1, The Problem. Chapter 1. The 2 mistakes that cripple AI strategy. The fastest way to weaken your AI strategy is to assign it to the wrong owner. Not because the wrong owner is incompetent, because the company has misunderstood the size of the decision. But ownership is only the first mistake. The second mistake lives inside the mandate itself. Companies that fix the ownership problem often immediately replace it with a new one. They declare AI a priority, tell everyone to use more of it, and wait for transformation to arrive. It does not arrive. This chapter covers both mistakes. Understand them together, and the path forward becomes clear. The ownership mistake. This is what happens when AI gets handed to IT as if it were just another software rollout. On paper, it makes sense. AI touches systems, data, security, permissions, compliance, vendors, architecture, and governance. Those concerns are real. Ignore them, and you are not being bold. You are being reckless. So the conversation naturally gets routed to IT. The CEO says, "We need an AI strategy." Someone says, "We should have IT look at this." And the company has already made the first strategic mistake. Not because IT should be excluded, because IT should not own the strategy alone. There is a massive difference between owning the infrastructure that makes AI safe and owning the operating model that makes AI valuable. IT is usually excellent at the first one. It is rarely designed to own the second. That second job belongs to the business. AI can sit across the company, understand context across systems, recommend action, automate steps, and eventually execute tasks across platforms. That makes AI an operating model decision. And operating model decisions cannot be delegated to one technical function. This is the operating model not found moment. The company is talking about AI, evaluating AI, testing AI, and maybe even paying for AI. But nobody has defined how the business is supposed to operate differently because of AI. That is not a strategy. That is activity. The old software buying process trained leaders to route every technology decision to IT. For decades it worked because most software lived inside functional boundaries. Marketing bought marketing tools, sales bought sales tools, finance bought finance tools. Each department had its own stack and its own workarounds, and when departments needed to coordinate, humans became the connective tissue, handling every gap the systems left open. AI breaks that pattern. It does not merely sit inside one department. It can sit underneath the business and across the business. A CRM helps sales. An AI operating layer can see, interpret, and act across all of them. That is not a normal software decision. That is a business design decision. Treating it like a tool purchase is how the company gets AI everywhere and strategy nowhere. IT owns risk, the business owns value. IT sees real risks first because IT is trained to see real risks first. That is a strength. It just cannot be the whole strategy. A platform can be secure and still useless. A vendor can pass security review and still create no leverage. A model can be powerful and still sit on top of a dumb process. The deepest questions of AI strategy are not technical questions. They are operating questions. What work should change? Which workflows are worth redesigning? Where are people wasting time? Where can AI create leverage instead of noise? Those are the questions operators must answer. IT can support those answers, challenge them, and protect the business while they are being pursued. But IT alone cannot define them. The best version of IT in the AI era is not the Department of No, it is the safe yes team. It's not no, it's how. IT makes AI safe. Operators make AI useful. Strategy begins when leaders stop admiring the model and start redesigning the work. AI sprawl is not strategy. AI sprawl rarely starts with bad intentions. It starts with motivated teams solving local problems. Then the enterprise inherits the mess. When ownership is fragmented, each function looks for its own solution. Every one of those needs may be legitimate, but if every department buys or builds in isolation, the company recreates the same broken architecture it already has. Different tools, different data, different permissions, different vendors, different workflows, and different versions of the truth. The company does not have a unified AI strategy. It has a junk drawer full of AI activity. That is the truth behind same shit, new bot. If your AI strategy recreates the same silos, handoffs, meetings, reporting pain, and political fights over whose data is right, you did not transform anything. You repainted legacy work with AI. Local wins are not the same as enterprise strategy. AI islands do not create an AI-first company. They create a smarter version of the same fragmentation. AI strategy needs input from everywhere. It cannot be decided by everyone. Not every department should buy whatever it wants. Not every pilot deserves funding. Not every clever agent deserves production access. Leadership has to make choices. Without those choices, the company will drift into AI sprawl and call it innovation. This is why the lazy AI steering committee fails. It meets, debates tools, discusses use cases, forms a tiger team, produces a deck, and 3 months later, the business is still working exactly the same way. If you create a steering committee, give it authority, a timeline, and a job. Make it outcome-oriented. Make it map workflows. Make it identify waste. Otherwise, you have created another human API call, and the whole point is to reduce those. The ownership model. The better model is distributed accountability with one clear mandate. The CEO owns the mandate. The business owns the workflows. The CFO owns the value model. The AI transformation leader owns the execution path. IT owns the guardrails, infrastructure, security, access, and enablement. Legal owns the exposure boundaries. HR owns the people implications. The board asks whether AI is creating operating leverage. That model matters because bad AI strategy eventually becomes a bad employee experience. Employees do not need vibes. They need tools, rules, training, and workflow clarity. Ask 5 executives who owns AI strategy. If you get 5 different answers, you do not have a strategy. You have AI activity. The activity trap. Use more AI is not a strategy. Fixing the ownership problem is not enough. Even companies that assign AI correctly often immediately replace the ownership mistake with the activity trap. A CEO stands in front of the company and says, "We're going to become AI first." People nod. A board member asks what the company is doing with AI. A few executives point to pilots. IT says it is evaluating tools. Marketing says it is using AI for content. Everyone feels like something is happening. But nothing fundamental has changed. The same broken patterns are still in place. The only difference is that now a chatbot is nearby. That is not transformation. That is old work with a new accessory. Same work, new buzzword. AI strategy is not about using more AI. It is about changing the work that AI touches. If the work does not change, the strategy has not landed. The mandate is not the model. When a CEO tells the workforce to use more AI without providing a plan, employees hear something very different than leadership intended. The executive team thinks it said, "We are moving into the future." The employee hears, "You are now responsible for figuring this out yourself." Then the mandate comes down. Use more AI, get fluent, be productive, be innovative, and prepare to be measured. Okay. With what tools? On what workflows? Using what data? Under what policy? With what training? Against what goals? Approved by whom? Measured how? If leadership cannot answer those questions, the company has not launched an AI strategy. It has launched organizational confusion. AI mandated, not trained. The proper sequence matters. First, the company needs a point of view on what AI is supposed to do for the business. Then it needs sanctioned tools, clear rules, role-specific training, workflow examples, governance, and measurement. Too many companies reverse that order. They measure before they enable. They pressure before they train. They mandate before they manage. A mandate without a model becomes confusion at scale. AI fluency is not the goal. AI fluency is useful. It is not the destination. A company can be AI fluent and still run badly. A person can become excellent at prompting and still spend the day improving work that should not exist anymore. An employee uses AI to summarize a meeting that never needed to happen. A manager uses AI to make a status deck faster when the real opportunity is to replace the status deck with a live operating view. A customer success manager uses AI to polish a QBR while still spending 4 hours gathering data from 6 systems. AI helps in each case, but it does not fix the operating model. It makes broken work faster, and faster broken work is still broken work. Logins are not leverage. Prompts are not profits. The better goal is operating leverage. The business gets better, not just busier with tools. Operating leverage means the company can do more without adding the same amount of cost, headcount, coordination, or management overhead. But that requires moving from individual productivity to enterprise operating design. Individual productivity asks, how can this person use AI? Operating leverage asks, how can this workflow change so the business runs better? Those are not the same question. Use more AI should become something sharper. We are going to use AI to redesign the workflows that create the most friction, waste the most time, and limit our ability to execute. Now the company has a strategy sentence. Operating leverage is the proof. Chapter 1. Diagnostic. Before moving forward, leadership should be able to answer 5 questions clearly. Who owns the AI mandate, and is that answer consistent across the leadership team? Who owns workflow discovery and prioritization? What workflows have actually changed because of AI? What old processes have stopped? What activity metrics are we mistaking for value? If the company cannot answer those questions confidently, it has enthusiasm and motion. It does not yet have ownership or strategy. Both mistakes described in this chapter are fixable, but they have to be named before they can be fixed. Chapter 2. AI is an operating model problem, not a technology problem. AI looks like technology because technology is the visible layer. That is why so many companies start in the wrong place. The real issue is not the tool. It is how the business runs. Most companies approach AI the way they approach software for the last 30 years. They ask which tool to buy, which vendor to trust, which model to use, which license to approve, and which department should implement it. Those are fair questions. They are just not the first questions. The first question is much bigger. How should work happen now? That is the question AI forces onto the table. AI matters because it exposes the way work actually moves, or fails to move, across the company. The companies that miss this will keep adding AI to old workflows and wondering why the business still feels slow. The companies that understand it will use AI as a forcing function to redesign how work flows across the organization. That is the difference between buying AI and building an AI strategy. The tool is not the transformation. The workflow is where transformation happens. AI strategy begins when leaders stop asking what AI can do and start asking how the business should run. The silo problem is the strategy problem. Most companies do not have an AI problem first. They have a context problem. AI just makes it impossible to ignore. The silo problem shows up everywhere. Data lives in different systems. Workflows cross departments. Decisions depend on humans stitching together context. A customer story lives partly in the CRM, partly in support tickets, partly in Slack, partly in email, partly in finance, and partly in the head of the one person who has been around long enough to know what actually happened. That is not a data architecture issue alone. It is an operating model issue. The problem is that work does not respect departmental boundaries. Customer issues move from support to product to account management to finance. Revenue workflows move from marketing to sales to legal to finance to customer success. The real business does not live inside one tool. It lives in the handoffs. That is where the old model fails. Every department may be locally optimized, but the company still struggles globally. Each function knows its piece. Nobody can see the whole thing quickly enough. So people become the integration layer, doing the glue work. This is why AI inside every tool is useful but insufficient. A smarter CRM can help sales. A smarter ticketing system can help support. A smarter BI tool can help finance. But if those systems do not contribute to a shared operating view, the business still depends on people to reconcile reality across them. That is how a company can have more AI and still not get faster. The AI improves fragments, it does not improve the system. Silos do not disappear because the tools got smarter. They disappear when the operating model changes. AI strategy is the work of deciding how truth should move across the business. Human glue is the hidden tax. Most companies run on more human glue than they realize. That glue is expensive. AI should attack the glue before it attacks the judgment. Human glue is the invisible work people do to keep a fragmented business functioning. It is searching for the latest version, summarizing the meeting, rebuilding the story, chasing the update, reconciling the spreadsheet, and explaining in a meeting what the systems should have made obvious. Some of that work feels normal because companies have been doing it forever. A weekly status meeting feels normal. A manual report feels normal. A manager asking 3 people for updates before making a decision feels normal. But normal does not mean necessary. It may simply mean the company has learned to tolerate friction. This is where AI can create real leverage, not by replacing human judgment, relationships, creativity, accountability, or leadership. The opportunity is to remove the low-value coordination work that consumes human capacity before people ever get to the work that deserves them. AI should not merely help people do glue work faster. It should help the company need less glue work in the first place. Humans are not a PIS. Do not use AI to make human glue prettier. Use AI to make less of it necessary. The AI operating system idea. The real opportunity is not AI in every tool. The real opportunity is a shared intelligence layer across the business. A brain on the company, not another app in the stack. Instead of treating AI as a feature sprinkled across disconnected tools, the company builds toward a unified context layer that can understand systems, repositories, workflows, permissions, roles, and business events across departments. That layer should not erase the systems of record. Sales still needs the CRM. Finance still needs financial systems. HR still needs people systems. The point is to create a layer that can understand how the work connects across them. That is where AI becomes more than a productivity assistant. It becomes a management system. It helps the company answer better questions faster. What changed? Where is work stuck? What risks are rising? Which customer needs attention? Which meeting exists only because no system can explain what happened? When AI is trapped in one department, it becomes another tool. When it connects the operating model, it becomes leverage. Workflows determine value. AI value does not appear because a model exists. AI value appears when a workflow changes. That is where strategy becomes real. Pick a workflow and ask what actually changes. Does the customer success team prepare QBRs differently? Does finance close the loop faster on variance analysis? Does legal review standard contracts with clearer escalation paths? Does onboarding help new employees find trusted answers without asking 5 people? If the answer is no, the company may have AI activity, but it does not yet have AI strategy. A tool can generate useful output and still leave the operating model untouched. A chatbot can answer questions and still leave the same meetings in place. An agent can automate a task and still preserve a workflow that should have been redesigned. This is why leaders need to stop starting with the buying question. The question is not, which AI tool should we buy? The better question is, how should work happen now? Once that is clear, the tool conversation becomes much sharper. IT knows what must be secured. Operators know what must change. Finance knows what must be measured. HR knows what people need to learn. Leadership knows what old work should stop. The workflow is the unit of transformation. The operating model is the strategy. The tool only matters if it helps the business run better. Chapter 2. Diagnostic. Before moving forward, leadership should be able to answer 5 questions clearly. Where does work cross departments but lose context? Where are humans acting as glue between systems? Which workflows depend on meetings because systems cannot explain what happened? Where does the company have smart tools but no shared truth? Which workflow should be redesigned before another AI tool is purchased? If the company cannot answer those questions, it may be treating AI as technology when it should be treating AI as operating design. A company does not become AI first by adding intelligence to every silo. It becomes AI first by redesigning how work moves across the business. Part 2. The ownership model. Chapter 3. Who owns what? The company needs 3 things before AI can scale: a mandate, a driver, and a safe path. The CEO provides the mandate. The AI transformation leader turns it into motion. IT makes it safe enough to move at speed. None of those 3 roles can substitute for the other 2. This is the ownership model. Not a committee, not a department, not a vendor. 3 specific roles with 3 specific jobs. This chapter explains what each one owns and why it matters. The CEO owns the mandate. AI strategy cannot be delegated like a software rollout. The CEO does not need to become the technical expert. The CEO does need to decide that AI changes how the company runs. This is where many companies quietly lose the plot. The CEO says AI matters, then immediately hands the problem to IT, a steering committee, a tiger team, or the most enthusiastic person in the building. Everyone gets busy. Vendors are reviewed. Pilots are launched. Employees are encouraged to experiment. A board slide appears. The company feels like it is moving. But the strategic question has not been answered. What should AI make the business better at doing? Where should the company become faster? Where is human labor being wasted? Where is decision velocity too slow? Where should human judgment remain essential? Those are not tool questions. They are CEO questions. They sit at the intersection of strategy, operating model, resource allocation, culture, accountability, and performance. A real mandate tells the organization what kind of change is expected. Are we trying to reduce coordination tax, improve decision speed, compress customer response time, improve margin? The answer cannot be all of it on day one. The CEO's job is to force prioritization. Not every department gets to define AI success for itself. Not every pilot deserves oxygen. The company needs a point of view on where AI should create business value first, and the CEO is the only person who can set it. Once AI moves beyond experimentation, the company will hit trade-offs. IT will want control. Operators will want speed. Legal will want boundaries. Finance will want proof. Managers will defend old rhythms because those rhythms are familiar. Someone has to clear those conflicts. That someone cannot be a committee with no authority. Without clear decision rights, the organization drifts, and drift is expensive. It creates tool sprawl, duplicate pilots, shadow AI, confused employees, skeptical finance teams, and IT teams forced to clean up a mess they did not design. The CEO's failure pattern is predictable. Speeches instead of decisions. A broad but vague mandate. AI delegated too early. Departments allowed to run experiments in silos. Employees told to adopt before they are trained. That is how the company ends up with AI everywhere and strategy nowhere. Board updates sound modern. Employees are experimenting. But the same meetings still happen, the same reports still get rebuilt, and the same people still act as middleware between systems. AI theater is easy to fund. Operating change is harder to lead. The CEO as operating model owner means asking, where should the company become faster, clearer, leaner, and more valuable? A serious CEO asks what meetings disappear, what reports stop, what tools get consolidated, what approval loops get shorter, and what manual rituals no longer deserve to exist. This is how AI becomes a management system instead of a motivational slogan. The CEO does not own every piece. The CEO owns the mandate that makes the pieces work together. The transformation leader owns the path. The CEO sets direction, but direction without a driver produces drift. That is why the second role matters as much as the first. Every serious AI strategy eventually runs into the same problem. The CEO can set direction, IT can build the safe path, operators can name the broken workflows, finance can define value, and legal can define boundaries. But someone still has to connect all of it into a working operating plan. That person is the AI transformation leader. This is the missing human role in most AI strategies. AI strategy crosses too many boundaries to survive inside one traditional function. It touches business performance, technical architecture, workflow design, governance, adoption, training, vendors, measurement, and change management. If nobody owns the connective tissue, the work fragments. This role is easy to misunderstand. It is not project management with AI language attached. It is operating model leadership. A project manager can track tasks and manage timelines. That matters, but it is not enough. An AI hobbyist can test tools, write prompts, and build demos. That also has value, but it is not enough. A CIO may understand architecture and platform risk. Still not the whole job. The transformation leader has to live between worlds. They need enough technical fluency to speak credibly with IT and vendors, but enough business fluency to challenge whether the tool is solving a meaningful problem. The job is not to admire models. The job is to translate business pain into workflow change, then help the company implement that change safely. This person owns the path from scattered possibility to prioritized action. That starts with use case intake, but cannot end there. A spreadsheet full of ideas is not a strategy. It is a parking lot. Someone has to evaluate which ideas connect to business outcomes, which workflows are worth redesigning, which systems contain the necessary context, which risks need review, and which efforts should move first. They should know which teams are ready, which workflows are high value, which pilots are theater, and which old processes need to stop. They keep the company honest. If a department wants AI for a local improvement that creates enterprise sprawl, the transformation leader surfaces that trade-off. If IT is slowing the work because the risk process is unclear, the transformation leader clarifies the path. If finance does not trust the value story, the transformation leader pushes for better baselines. This role needs authority. A transformation leader who can only suggest and politely remind people will eventually become another layer of theater. The role needs executive backing from the CEO, access to function leaders, and permission to say, "That is interesting, but not now." The company does not need someone accountable for AI activity. It needs someone accountable for AI outcomes. Do not appoint an AI cheerleader. Appoint an outcomes owner. Ideas are cheap. Sequencing is strategy. The job is to make the business run better. IT owns the guardrails. The CEO owns the what. The transformation leader owns the how. IT determines whether both can move at speed without creating risk. IT has never been more important to AI strategy, but importance is not the same as sole ownership. The future role of IT is safe acceleration. IT may be more critical in the AI era than it was in the software era, because AI does not just store information or automate one task. It can retrieve, reason, recommend, trigger, write, route, and act across systems that were never meant to think together. That creates risk. It also creates possibility. Both require IT. The company needs permissioning, identity, access controls, vendor review, data governance, integration discipline, auditability, and agent oversight. Without those guardrails, AI becomes shadow infrastructure wearing an innovation costume. But that does not mean IT should become the strategy. IT should make the path safe enough for the business to move. IT should become the safe yes team. IT earned its caution honestly. Security teams have seen what careless adoption creates. But caution cannot become paralysis. If IT defaults to no, employees will not wait patiently for perfect governance. They will find consumer tools, paste sensitive information into unapproved systems, build shadow workflows, and create the very risk IT was trying to prevent. The safest path should be the easiest path. Approved tools should be clear. Data rules should be understandable. Review processes should be fast enough to respect business urgency. Guardrails are not the opposite of speed. Guardrails create trusted speed. That is the IT advantage in the AI era. IT's role becomes even more important when AI moves from generating responses to taking action. A chatbot answers. An agent acts. That changes the risk model entirely. An agent can trigger a workflow, update a record, send a message, create a ticket, or initiate a process. Once AI can act, the company needs rules for ownership, testing, approvals, auditability, version control, and kill switches. Bots need bosses. Agents are not magic, they are managed work. The winning model is partnership. The business comes to IT with specific workflows. Here is the process that is slow. Here is the handoff that creates risk. Here is the decision that waits too long for context. IT answers with the safe path. Here is the platform we can support. Here is how permissions work. Here is what needs legal review. Here is how we test before production. The business stops treating IT as a ticket counter. IT stops being the brake pedal. Both sides become accountable for a better outcome. The best IT teams will not be known for saying no. They will be known for making yes safe. That is a strategic role. Chapter 3. Diagnostic. Before moving forward, leadership should be able to answer 5 questions clearly. Who owns the mandate, and is the entire leadership team aligned to the same answer? Who turns the mandate into a sequenced operating roadmap? Does that person have enough authority to say no to low-value work? Is the approved AI path easier than the shadow path? Who approves agents before they can act in production? If the company cannot answer those questions, it has a sponsor. It does not have a driver, and without both, the strategy will scatter into committees, pilots, and local wins that never become an operating model. Part 3. The operating design. Chapter 4. Centralize the platform. Decentralize the workflows. The winning AI operating model has 2 moves. Centralize what must be common. Decentralize what must be close to the work. This is where many AI strategies lose their balance. Some companies centralize everything and create a slow corporate machine that approves, reviews, and delays every useful idea. Other companies decentralize everything and let every department buy tools, build agents, connect data, and invent its own version of AI progress. The right answer is not one extreme. The right answer is a deliberate split. The company should centralize the platform, governance, security, permissions, architecture, data access, and measurement model. Then it should decentralize workflow discovery, use case design, local adoption, and the details of how work actually changes inside each function. That model gives the enterprise coherence without stealing ownership from the people closest to the work. Centralization creates trust. Decentralization creates relevance. AI strategy needs both. Why full centralization fails? Centralization sounds disciplined. It can also become theater with better governance. If everything waits for headquarters, the work will not move. Full centralization usually begins with good intentions. Leaders want consistency, safety, cost control, vendor discipline, and a single view of what is happening. The problem starts when centralization becomes a permission factory instead of an enablement model. When every workflow idea has to climb the same corporate ladder, speed dies. Operators stop bringing forward ideas because the process feels too heavy. Power users either give up or go around the system. The center becomes responsible for everything and accountable for very little. A centralized model that cannot absorb real business demand will fail quietly. It will look responsible on paper while the real work either stalls or escapes into shadow AI. Governance without enablement becomes drag. That is not strategy. Why full decentralization fails? Decentralization feels fast. It can also recreate the exact chaos AI was supposed to fix. Local freedom without enterprise discipline becomes sprawl. Full decentralization lets teams move quickly, which feels good at first. Marketing tests one tool, sales tests another. Finance tries a reporting assistant. HR builds a policy bot. Everyone has energy. Everyone has proof that AI can help. Then the enterprise cost appears. Different tools hold different data. Different agents follow different rules. Different departments define success differently. IT cannot see the full risk. Employees do not know which tools are approved. Leaders cannot tell whether the company is transforming or simply collecting experiments. That is the junk drawer problem. AI islands do not create an AI-first company. They create smarter silos. Local speed without shared architecture becomes enterprise drag. Same shit, new bot in operating model form. What to centralize? Centralize the pieces that create trust. Centralize the pieces that reduce risk. Centralize the pieces everyone should not reinvent. The company should centralize the AI operating layer, approved platforms, security standards, access model, permissioning, vendor review, data classification, integration rules, agent approval process, and measurement framework. These are the foundation that lets the business move with confidence. Centralization should also create a common language. What is a pilot? What is a production agent? What data can AI access? What requires human review? What counts as realized value? If every function answers those questions differently, the company will never scale AI cleanly. The center should make the safe path obvious, not force every team to become experts in security, procurement, and governance before they can improve a workflow. Centralize the rules of the road. Centralize the platform people can trust. Do not centralize every turn of the wheel. What to decentralize? Decentralize the work. Decentralize the discovery. Decentralize the expertise that lives closest to the workflow. The business functions should own workflow truth. Sales knows where account research breaks. Customer success knows why QBRs take too long. Finance knows where reporting gets rebuilt by hand. HR knows where employees get lost. Operations knows where approvals stall. Support knows where customers repeat themselves because systems do not share context. Those teams should not wait for the center to discover every opportunity. They should be trained to identify friction, map workflows, propose use cases, test improvements, and give feedback. The center owns the system. The functions own the workflow. That is how AI becomes useful without becoming chaotic. Decentralization works when teams operate inside a shared system. They can define the workflow, shape the use case, validate the output, and drive adoption. But they do it with approved tools, governed access, common measurement, and clear escalation paths. The operating rhythm. The model only works if it has rhythm. Strategy has to become a cadence. Otherwise, the framework becomes another slide. The company needs a recurring rhythm where workflow ideas move through a practical path. Functions identify opportunities. The transformation leader helps prioritize them. IT defines the safe path. Finance clarifies the value model. HR identifies training needs. Legal reviews exposure. Leadership resolves conflicts when priorities compete. This is also how the company learns. One workflow teaches the next. One agent teaches the governance model. One measurement review teaches finance what to track. One adoption problem teaches HR what training is missing. The operating model improves because the work is connected. Centralization gives the company memory. Decentralization gives the company motion. Rhythm turns both into learning. Chapter 4. Diagnostic. Before moving forward, leadership should be able to answer 5 questions clearly. What must be centralized so AI can scale safely? Where should functions own workflow discovery and design? Is the safe path easier than the local workaround? Which teams are creating useful local wins that should become shared patterns? What operating cadence moves AI work from idea to production? The winning model is disciplined at the center and practical at the edge. Centralize the platform, decentralize the workflows. That is how AI strategy scales without losing the work. Chapter 5. Decide what AI should do, then choose the platform. 2 questions have to be answered in sequence before any AI platform is selected. First, what work should change? Second, which platform can support that change? Most companies answer the second question before finishing the first. That is why so many platforms become shelfware. The discipline is simple. Score the work, then match the platform to the score. Decide what AI should actually do. Just because AI can do something does not mean the company should build it. The real value is not automation. The real value is judgment about what deserves automation. AI expands what is possible. Strategy decides what is worth doing. That distinction is where discipline begins. The best AI candidates share a pattern. They happen often, consume time, depend on context, and connect to outcomes. Before approving a workflow, score it against 8 questions. Frequency, time consumed, business impact, workflow pain, repeatability, data availability, risk, and maintenance burden. If a use case cannot survive those questions, it probably does not deserve priority. Frequency matters because rare work usually does not create enough return. Time consumed matters because AI should free meaningful capacity. Business impact matters because the company needs leverage, not party tricks. Repeatability matters because AI performs best when patterns exist. Data availability matters because the system needs enough trusted context to work. Maintenance burden matters because every agent and automation creates future ownership. The use case is not the unit of strategy. The workflow is. Score the work before you build the thing. Good AI workflow candidates. Good AI candidates are boring in the right way. They repeat, consume context, and slow people down. A strong candidate is repetitive, context-heavy, crosses systems or departments, consumes meaningful time, and is connected to a measurable business outcome. That is why QBR and EBR preparation is a better candidate than a once-a-quarter administrative upload. A customer success manager preparing a business review may need account history, ticket trends, contract details, renewal risk, product usage, and stakeholder notes. That work is repetitive, context-heavy, time-consuming, and valuable. If AI can assemble the first version, surface risks, and reduce manual prep time, the business gets leverage. The same logic applies to support triage, contract review, onboarding questions, sales research, knowledge retrieval, and internal reporting. The work keeps happening. It requires context. It slows people down. It can be measured before and after. Start where friction repeats. Start where context exists. Start where the win can be measured. Bad AI workflow candidates. Not every annoying task deserves automation. The company needs taste, not just capability. A weak candidate is rare, low consequence, highly variable, poorly understood, risky without upside, or easier to do manually. When build time collapses, bad ideas can scale faster than good ones. The bottleneck shifts from building to deciding. The company that wins will not be the company that automates the most. It will be the company that knows what not to automate. Do not automate confusion. Do not scale bad process. Risk also changes the priority. Move fast where the blast radius is small. Move carefully where AI can change money, rights, obligations, customer trust, or production systems. Low-risk workflows can move quickly in a sandbox. High-risk workflows need formal approval, auditability, testing, and clear ownership before production access. Once the company scores the opportunities, group them into 3 buckets. Do now, do later, do not do. Do now work should have high frequency, visible pain, available context, manageable risk, and measurable value. Do not do work may be too rare, too risky, too unclear, or too disconnected from business outcomes. The roadmap should be a short list of workflows that matter, not a museum of every idea the company had. Choose the platform. Once the company knows which work should change, the platform question becomes much sharper. The right platform is the one that can support the workflows that matter. Fit beats flash. Do not start with the demo. Start with the business question. Vendors are very good at making AI look inevitable. The demo is smooth. The assistant answers quickly. The agent performs a clean task. Someone in the room says, "This is exactly what we need." Maybe it is. Maybe it is not. A great demo is not proof of business fit. It is proof that the vendor knows how to demo. Before evaluating platforms, the company should know what it is trying to improve. The platform should be evaluated against the workflows, not the other way around. Instead of asking whether the product has agents, ask whether those agents can improve the workflow you actually care about. Instead of asking whether the search is impressive, ask whether it retrieves trusted answers from the sources employees are allowed to use. Buy for the work you need to change. Operators should ask practical questions that do not always show up in IT scorecards. Is this easy enough for real employees to use? Does it live where employees will actually work, or does it require them to move into yet another destination? Does it produce answers people trust? Does it show sources? Does it help employees do better work, or does it simply create more output for the same old process? If the platform cannot change the daily rhythm of work, it is not the operating layer. IT has to ask the questions that protect the company. Does the platform honor permissions? How does data move? Where is data stored? How are agents governed? Can IT see agent behavior? These questions are not blockers. They are the foundation of trust. The platform decision has to bring operators and IT into the same conversation. Operators ask whether the work will change. IT asks whether the change can scale safely. Beware vendor theater. It shows up in familiar ways. Great demos with weak references, feature lists with no workflow proof, big claims about agents without clear governance, slick answers that depend on clean sample data rather than the messy reality of your systems. The company is not buying AI jewelry. It is choosing part of the operating model. Do not buy the sparkle. Buy the system that can survive the mess. Chapter 5, Diagnostic. Before moving forward, leadership should be able to answer 5 questions clearly. Which workflows are frequent enough, painful enough, and measurable enough to deserve AI? What should we explicitly choose not to automate? Does the platform connect the systems that contain the necessary context? Can IT govern permissions, data movement, agents, and risk? Can operators and finance measure workflow impact after implementation? If the company cannot answer those questions, it is not ready to select a platform. Start with outcomes. Test against workflows. Choose the platform that helps the business run better. Part 4. Making it real. Chapter 6. The first 90 days, from decision to operating system. The first 90 days should not be a research project. They should create direction, visibility, and proof. The goal is not to finish the transformation. The goal is to make drift impossible. Once the CEO decides AI is an operating model shift, the company needs to move quickly enough to create momentum and carefully enough to avoid chaos. Too slow, and the organization slides back into committees, pilots, and vendor demos. Too fast, and the company creates risk, confusion, and another layer of AI sprawl. 90 days will not transform the company, but 90 days can change the trajectory. That is the point. Days 1 to 15 align the executive team. Start with ownership. Start with outcomes. Start by making AI strategy real at the top. The first 2 weeks should be about executive alignment, not tool selection. The CEO needs the leadership team to agree on the business outcomes AI should improve first. Margin, speed, customer experience, capacity, risk visibility, decision velocity. These are all valid goals. They are not all equal priorities on day 1. This is also where decision rights need to become explicit. Refer to the ownership model in Chapter 3. Name the owners by name, not by title and not by committee. The first deliverable is not a vendor shortlist. The first deliverable is executive clarity. If leadership is not aligned, the rest of the company will improvise. Days 1 to 30. Inventory, the operating environment. AI cannot improve what the company cannot see. The next step is not a tool audit. It is an operating environment inventory. The company needs a practical map of the systems, repositories, tools, and truth sources AI may need to understand. This does not need to become a 6-month enterprise architecture project. It needs to be clear enough to show where work actually lives. Start with the workflows leadership cares about most. Then identify the systems of record, duplicate repositories, unofficial trackers, stale knowledge bases, side spreadsheets, communication channels, permission structures, and owners. Ask where truth lives, where truth conflicts, and where humans are currently reconciling reality by hand. This inventory should also surface what should connect, what should support, what needs cleanup, and what should probably die. AI strategy gets much sharper when the company sees the operating mess it has been asking employees to compensate for. Do not inventory everything forever. Inventory what the first workflows need. Clean where it counts. Days 15 to 45, discover the first workflows. The first workflows should not be the flashiest. They should be frequent, painful, measurable, and practical. That is where AI earns trust. Workflow discovery should happen with the people closest to the work. Operators know where the process breaks. Managers know where friction lives. Finance knows where the waste is visible. IT knows where the system reality creates risk. The goal is to identify a short list of workflows that are good candidates for AI-supported redesign. Look for repeated friction, high time consumption, available context, manageable risk, clear ownership, and measurable before and after impact. Kill weak ideas early. Rare tasks, vague use cases, and risky automations without clear value should not survive the first filter. Days 30 to 60, build the safe path. The platform needs rules before it needs scale. Employees need clarity before they need metrics. Agents need governance before they need production access. By the middle of the first 90 days, the company should be defining the safe path. That includes approved tools, access rules, permissioning, data boundaries, human review requirements, agent approval, escalation paths, feedback loops, and basic training expectations. This is where IT, legal, HR, finance, and operators need to work together. IT defines the technical guardrails. Legal defines exposure boundaries. HR prepares training and role guidance. Finance defines how value will be measured. Operators validate whether the workflow design actually fits the work. The safe path should be easier than the shadow path. If the official process is slow, confusing, or buried in policy language, employees will route around it. Governance is not the brake. Governance is the road. Days 60 to 90, prove production value. By day 90, the company should have proof, not a perfect operating system. Proof that the operating model can change. The final month should move the strongest early workflows toward controlled production. Real users, real context, real governance, real feedback, and real measurement. Reduce QBR preparation time, improve support triage, shorten internal reporting, accelerate sales research, remove a recurring meeting, eliminate a manual status chase. The specific workflow matters less than the proof that AI can change how work gets done. The company should measure before and after. Time saved, cycle time reduced, quality improved, meetings removed, capacity created, and old work stopped. Those are the signals that AI is moving from activity to operating leverage. This is also where the company learns how to scale. The first workflow teaches the second. The first agent teaches the governance model. The first adoption issue teaches HR what training is missing. The first value review teaches finance what to measure. The first 90 days should create the next 90. Chapter 6. Diagnostic. Before moving forward, leadership should be able to answer 5 questions clearly. What executive outcomes are driving the first 90 days? Which systems and truth sources matter for the first workflows? Which workflows will move from idea to controlled production? What rules make the safe path easier than shadow AI? What proof will show that AI changed the way work gets done? Do not spend 90 days admiring the possibility. Use 90 days to build the path, then make the next 90 faster, smarter, and more valuable. Chapter 7. Culture, Proof, and the Long Game. The operating model can be well designed and still fail. 2 things determine whether it sticks: culture and measurement. Culture decides whether people use AI to improve the work or to protect old habits. Measurement decides whether leadership rewards the right outcomes or accepts activity theater. They are not separate programs. They are the same accountability question answered from 2 sides. Culture, what AI exposes. The more AI sees, the harder it becomes to hide weak operating habits. That is good news if the company is ready to learn. It is bad news if the company only wanted a tool. AI does more than speed up work. It makes work more visible. It shows where decisions stall, where managers rely on status collection, where departments protect their own truth, and where people keep old rituals alive because nobody has asked whether they still matter. AI strategy is not just a productivity program. It is a truth program. This is why culture matters. A company can buy the right platform and still fail if managers defend old meetings, employees fear visibility, departments hoard context, and leadership disappears after the announcement. Technology opens the door. Culture decides whether people walk through it. If AI exposes reality and the culture punishes reality, the strategy will stall. Transparency changes management. AI changes what managers can see. That means it changes what managers can excuse. In many companies, managers spend too much time collecting status. Old management rhythms come under pressure when AI starts surfacing workflow state, blockers, changes, and next actions. Managers no longer need to ask for every update if the operating environment can show what changed. They no longer need a meeting to discover that a process is stuck if the system can flag it earlier. That does not make managers less important. It makes management more honest. Less time gathering facts should mean more time coaching people, removing obstacles, making decisions, improving workflows, and applying judgment. AI should reduce status collection. It should not reduce leadership. The best managers will stop asking for updates and start improving the system. Transparency ends. Comfortable ambiguity. Ambiguity protects weak operating habits. AI makes ambiguity harder to protect. That is why some resistance looks cultural, but is actually political. When work is opaque, people can hide behind process. A delay can look unavoidable. A bad forecast can be explained away. A recurring meeting can survive because nobody has a better source of truth. AI does not magically fix that, but it can make the pattern visible. It can show that the same approval stalls every week, the same report gets rebuilt every month, and the same department keeps asking for context another team already has. A weak culture treats visibility as threat. A strong culture treats visibility as signal. Do not punish the truth. Use the truth to fix the system. That is how AI becomes a learning mechanism instead of a surveillance mechanism. Subtraction is the cultural test. Most companies are better at adding than subtracting. AI strategy has to change that. The healthiest question is, what did AI kill? Companies love launches. They celebrate new tools, new workflows, new dashboards, and new initiatives. They are much less disciplined about stopping old work. That is how the organization gets heavier. Every new process lands on top of the old one. AI should force a different habit. If an AI workflow improves visibility, maybe the status meeting should die. If it creates a trusted summary, maybe the manual report should stop. If it accelerates review, maybe the approval chain should shrink. Addition is easy. Subtraction is strategy. What did AI kill is one of the best questions a leader can ask. Trust determines adoption. People will not use AI deeply if they do not trust the environment. Trust is not built by hype. It is built by clarity. Employees need to know which tools are approved, what data is allowed, what outputs require review, who owns mistakes, and how their work will be measured. Without that clarity, adoption becomes uneven. Some people avoid AI, some use it secretly, some use it recklessly. Culture improves when the company is direct. Here is why we are doing this. Here are the tools, here are the rules, here is the training. Here is where human judgment matters more than ever. Train before you measure. Clarify before you judge. Trust is the cultural infrastructure of AI strategy. Measurement. Prove the work changed. Visibility is not the win. Improvement is. And improvement requires a measurement model that rewards operating change instead of AI activity. AI will not survive forever on excitement. At some point, the company has to prove value. But excitement is not a measurement model. A company cannot declare victory because employees logged in, prompts increased, pilots launched, agents were created, or a demo impressed the board. Those are signs of activity. They are not proof that the business is better. Prompts are not profits. Activity metrics are useful early. They are dangerous when they become the scoreboard. It is fine to track logins, active users, prompt volume, training completion, and pilot creation. Those numbers tell the company whether people have access and whether tools are being touched. But they do not tell the company whether AI is creating operating leverage. If the company only measures activity, employees will optimize for activity. That is how AI becomes another performance theater. Logins are not leverage. Pilot counts are not progress. The metrics that matter are operational. They show whether work changed. They connect AI to business performance. Time saved, cycle time reduced, capacity created, and value realized. The full measurement framework was established in Chapter 6. The key is that these metrics require a baseline. How long did the process take before? How many people touched it? How many meetings supported it? Once the baseline exists, AI value becomes honest. The company can compare before and after and see whether the saved time turned into real capacity. Finance makes AI honest. The CFO's job is not to kill AI ambition. The CFO's job is to make ambition economically honest. That discipline protects the strategy. Finance should be involved early, not after the company has already declared success. The CFO can help separate hard savings from soft capacity, estimated value from realized value, and productivity stories from measurable business impact. AI may create capacity, improve speed, reduce rework, improve customer experience, or avoid risk. Those are real forms of value, but they need to be named clearly. Finance should ask practical questions. What was the baseline? What changed? Who owns the improvement? What happened to the time saved? Is the value recurring or a one-time win? Those questions force the company to stop hiding behind inflated spreadsheets where imaginary minutes are multiplied by loaded salaries and called transformation. Fake value will eventually collapse. Real value can compound. Finance is how the company tells the difference. Measure subtraction. One of the most important AI measurements is subtraction. What meetings no longer happen? What reports are no longer manually created? What approval loops shortened? What old workflows were retired? What did AI kill? That is not a cynical question. It is one of the cleanest measures of transformation. Companies are addicted to addition. More tools, dashboards, workflows, agents, and programs. AI strategy should reverse that habit. Every unnecessary meeting, report, and ritual consumes human capacity that could be used for judgment, creativity, coaching, and better decisions. Subtraction is how AI earns the right to keep scaling. Chapter 7. Diagnostic. Before moving forward, leadership should be able to answer 5 questions clearly. Are managers using AI visibility to coach and improve or to police? What old work has stopped because AI improved the operating model? What business metric will prove this AI work mattered? What was the baseline before AI touched the workflow? What happened to the time AI saved? If the company cannot answer those questions, it may be installing technology faster than it is building cultural readiness. Visibility is not the win. Improvement is the win. Culture and measurement are what turn AI transparency into operating leverage. Part 5. The Hard Truths. Chapter 8. Where this argument has limits. Every strong argument needs limits. Otherwise, it becomes a slogan. The central argument of this book is clear. AI strategy should not be owned by IT alone. Use more AI is not a strategy. And the companies that win will use AI to redesign how work gets done. That is still the point. But that does not mean every AI decision is an operating model transformation. Every pilot is theater, or every company should move at the same speed. Nuance is not weakness. It is how the strategy survives reality. IT-heavy decisions still belong to IT. Some AI decisions are deeply technical. Those decisions need technical ownership. That does not contradict the argument. It completes it. When the company is making decisions about infrastructure, security architecture, identity, access controls, data storage, model access, integrations, system performance, logging, auditability, and technical risk, IT should have clear authority. The business should not override IT on material security exposure because a vendor demo looked useful. Operators should not move agents into production because the workflow feels urgent. Employees should not connect sensitive company data to unapproved tools because the sanctioned path is inconvenient. This book is not arguing for reckless business ownership. It is arguing for shared ownership with clear decision rights. IT owns the guardrails. The business owns the workflow. The CEO owns the mandate. AI strategy fails when either side pretends the other side does not matter. Regulated work requires a slower path. Some workflows need more review before AI touches them. That is not fear. That is responsible leadership. Healthcare, financial services, insurance, legal, government, education, and heavily contractual environments all carry different obligations. So do workflows involving personal data, financial reporting, compensation, employment decisions, customer commitments, legal advice, and regulated communications. The answer is not to avoid AI forever. The answer is to tier the risk. Low-risk workflows can move quickly. Medium-risk workflows may need controlled rollout and human review. High-risk workflows need stronger testing, approvals, auditability, documentation, and governance before they touch production. Move fast where the blast radius is small. Move carefully where trust, money, rights, or obligations are at stake. Good strategy knows the difference. Endpoint AI can still be useful. Not every AI tool has to become the operating system. Some tools are useful because they solve local problems well. That is fine. A writing assistant can help marketing draft faster. A coding assistant can help engineers move faster. An HR assistant can help employees find policy answers. Those are useful improvements. The problem is not endpoint AI. The problem is mistaking endpoint AI for enterprise strategy. If a tool helps a person work faster, call it personal productivity. If a platform changes how work moves across departments, call it operating model change. Those are different categories. Do not confuse a sharper tool with a better operating model. Pilots can be valuable. Pilots are not the enemy. Pilot culture is the enemy. There is a difference. A good pilot answers a specific question. Can this workflow be improved? Can the platform access the right context? Can employees use it? Can IT govern it? Can finance measure it? Can the company scale it? That kind of pilot is useful. It reduces uncertainty. It exposes data problems, adoption gaps, governance needs, and workflow assumptions. It helps leaders make better decisions before investing more heavily. The problem begins when pilots become a hiding place. If every department runs experiments with no shared governance, no measurement model, no scaling path, and no decision about what stops, the company is not learning. It is collecting activity. A pilot should answer a question and lead to a decision. A pilot without a path is just theater with a sandbox. Human work still matters. AI should not replace the work that deserves human judgment. It should remove the work that prevents human judgment from showing up. That distinction matters. Some work should stay human because it depends on trust, ethics, taste, empathy, leadership, accountability, negotiation, or creativity. AI can help draft, summarize, research, compare, and prepare. But humans still need to decide what is true, what is appropriate, what is ethical, what is on brand, and what should happen next. The best companies will not use AI to remove humanity from the business. They will use AI to stop wasting human capacity on glue work, repetitive assembly, unnecessary searching, and status theater. The goal is not fewer humans thinking. The goal is fewer humans acting as middleware. Chapter 8. Diagnostic. Before moving forward, leadership should be able to answer 5 questions clearly. Which AI decisions truly require technical ownership? Which workflows need higher review because the risk is material? Where is endpoint AI useful but not strategic? Which pilots are answering real questions and which are avoiding decisions? What work should remain human because judgment, trust, or accountability matter? The point is not to force every decision into one model. The point is to make better ownership decisions based on the work, the risk, and the value. IT is not the villain. Endpoint AI is not useless. The mistake is letting the exception become the strategy. Chapter 9. What the CEO does Monday morning. The CEO does not need to solve AI on Monday morning. The CEO does need to stop the drift. The first move is not complexity, it is clarity. The argument is clear. Now, the work starts. Monday morning is not about theater. It is about 5 decisions. Stop the noise, name the priorities, assign the ownership, choose the first workflows, and build the scoreboard. Stop the AI noise. Before the company adds anything, it should stop something. AI strategy needs subtraction before expansion. The CEO should pause random pilots, unapproved tools, department-by-department buying, vague experimentation, and adoption metrics that reward activity without value. This does not mean freezing all progress. It means stopping the patterns that make AI harder to govern, harder to measure, and harder to scale. Stop asking employees to figure AI out alone. Stop telling people to use more AI without approved platforms, data rules, workflow examples, and training. Stop pretending pilots are strategy. Stop letting every vendor demo reset the conversation. Stop measuring AI as if usage is the same thing as leverage. Stopping is not anti-innovation. Stopping is how leadership creates room for strategy. If everything continues, nothing has changed. Name the operating priorities. AI should serve the business agenda, not the other way around. The CEO has to name the priorities: margin improvement, revenue velocity, customer response, employee capacity, decision speed, risk visibility, quality, scale. The exact list will differ by company, but the point is the same. AI needs to attach to business pressure, not abstract enthusiasm. Once the priorities are clear, the rest of the work becomes easier. Workflow selection gets sharper. Vendor evaluation gets more grounded. Finance knows what value to measure. HR knows which employee groups need support. IT knows where to focus guardrails. The transformation leader knows what belongs on the roadmap. Start with business pressure. Translate it into workflow change. Then select the AI that fits. Assign the ownership system. AI strategy needs names, not vibes. Every major decision should have an owner. Ambiguity is where sprawl begins. The ownership model from Chapter 3 applies directly. Name the owners explicitly. The CEO who owns the mandate, the transformation leader who owns the path, IT who owns the guardrails, the operators who own the workflows, the CFO who owns the value model, HR who owns people readiness, legal who owns exposure boundaries, and the board who owns accountability. Do not leave any of these as implied. Ownership is not bureaucracy. Ownership is how the strategy survives contact with the organization. If no one owns the path will fragment. Choose the first workflows. The CEO should not ask for every use case. The CEO should ask for the first few that matter. Focus is the strategy. The first workflows should be frequent, painful, measurable, and connected to the operating priorities. They should have available context, clear owners, manageable risk, and enough friction that employees actually want the work to change. Do not start with the flashiest idea. Start where the company can prove the model. A QBR process that takes too long. A reporting rhythm that depends on manual assembly. A support triage workflow that misses signals. An onboarding process that forces new employees to hunt for answers. a status meeting that exists because systems cannot explain the work. Do not boil the ocean. Prove the pattern. Then scale what works. Make the safe path obvious. People will use the path that is easiest. Make the safe path easier than the shadow path. That is governance. Employees should know which tools are approved, what data is allowed, what requires review, who approves agents, how to report issues, and where to get training. If the official path is slow, vague, or buried in policy language, people will route around it. That does not mean employees are reckless. It means leadership made the wrong path easier. Good governance should feel like enablement, not punishment. Train before you measure. The safe path has to be real. Build the scoreboard. The company will optimize for what leadership measures, so measure the right things. The first scorecard should not be a wall of activity metrics. Logins, prompts, pilots, and training completion can be early signals, but they cannot be the scoreboard. The real measures are the operational metrics from chapters 6 and 7. Workflow speed, cycle time, capacity created, meetings removed, and value realized. Not activity, changed work. Finance should help make the value model honest. HR should help make adoption human. IT should help make the controls visible. Operators should explain what changed in the work. The CEO should keep asking the same question. What is better because of AI? If the metric rewards activity, people will create activity. If the metric rewards operating change, people will change the work. The scoreboard is strategy. Chapter 9, Diagnostic. Before moving forward, leadership should be able to answer 5 questions clearly. What stops today? What business pressure does AI serve first? Who owns each piece of the mandate? By name. Which first workflow will prove the model? What will the scoreboard measure? If the company cannot answer those questions, it is not ready to scale AI with confidence. It may still be ready to experiment and explore. But Monday morning should not create more motion without direction. It should create the clarity that makes motion matter. Stop the noise. Name the priorities. Build the ownership system. Start changing the work. Conclusion. The best operating model wins. The companies that win with AI will not be the companies with the most tools. They will not be the companies with the most pilots, agents, dashboards, or speeches. They will be the companies that change how work gets done. AI is not the trophy. The operating model is the trophy. AI is not the strategy. The operating model is the strategy. AI only matters when it makes the business run better. The winners will not treat AI as decoration on top of old work. They will not use it to make broken meetings faster, broken reports prettier, or broken handoffs more automated. They will use it to challenge the work itself. What should change? What should stop? What should stay human? What should become faster, clearer, safer, and more scalable? Ownership is the answer. The CEO owns the mandate. The business owns the workflows. IT owns the guardrails. The transformation leader owns the path. Finance owns the value model. HR owns the people implications. Legal owns the exposure boundaries. The board owns accountability. No one owns the whole thing alone. But without the CEO making the call that AI is not a side project, the organization will drift. And drift is how companies end up with AI everywhere and strategy nowhere. The proof of AI strategy is not usage. The proof is changed work. Did the meeting disappear? Did the report stop being rebuilt by hand? Did the customer get an answer faster? Did the manager stop collecting status and start improving performance? Did finance see real value? Did employees gain capacity for work that deserves them? Humans are not a PIS. The work AI should attack first is the glue, the searching, chasing, summarizing, and rebuilding context that keeps people from doing the work that actually matters. Not leadership, not empathy, not creativity, not the trust that makes teams and customers believe. The glue. The serious companies will not just buy tools. They will build operating capability. They will centralize the platform and decentralize the workflows. They will make the safe path the easiest path. They will train before they measure. They will ask what work should die. That is what winning looks like. Not the most AI, the best operating model. That is the company worth building. That is the strategy worth owning. Well, that's it for this book. I have several others that go into the weeds on different topics and even the tactics needed. The AI First Company, 10 Essential Moves to Run the Business Better with AI, is a book that is a short read and a checklist-oriented way to get started. Then, the AI operating system. How top operators drive value creation. Installing an AI brain on the business to unify context, increase velocity, and grow enterprise value is geared towards the owners, investors, and boards who are ready to run a business on an AI operating system. And as always, I encourage you to check out Gleek Ops for more info and get some guidance on your transformation journey. As a Glean partner, Gleek Ops can install the most sophisticated foundations with AI and enable you to fast-track your investments. GLEEKOPS.com. Check them out.